Yeah, I mean, that's a big change, and I think we need to, that's another agenda item to like discuss. But until then, I think I was trying to get to that in the form, because I don't know how long that'll take. My point is that, is there an action required? I'm trying to think of, like, for instance, sometimes we'll go over, say, Wilson Drive, and or the police station, and we need to amend our long-range plan, financial plan, okay? Because we've done that this year. Like, we've gone, it still says 2.5 or something, and I can't remember the number, but I just remember this happened this year, $1 million, and then yet we're authorizing 3.5. It's never codified anywhere. So so trustee Carpenter comes in, or our next trustee comes in, and they look at what was, and compare it to this year, and it's not, it still says 2.5. So that's the memorialization on the big things that we may want to just consider. Is there any other follow-up action that we need to take place fiscally?
What did we actually budget in our budget for Wilson? I mean, I don't know if I want to go back and amend the long-range financial plan during the year, but we have a budget amount for Wilson there.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I think Mark would say that the long-range financial plan is a planned document.
Right.
And, there's going to be times that it will change. I mean, that's why it's a planning document. But I don't know, like, Rebecca, we could probably talk internally as far as how we handle budget amendments.
Yeah, it's beyond this form.
It is.
Yeah,
It's just like,
form.
it's something, it's an initiative, to kind of go through this stuff, and that would be a different discussion. But yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Here's my thought is because there's a lot of good comments, but a lot more comments than I was anticipating for the memo, which is good, which is really good. So maybe what I could do is work with Rebecca and department heads on having us propose like a revised template that we could maybe just share via email or something like that.
And it can evolve.
Yeah.
I think it's good that we
Because
have a discussion.
I know me personally, I would rather just get feedback that way before just bringing it to the board.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
For approval. I would like all of you to see it first and get your reactions before we bring it.
Well, and on fiscal notes too, like on Wilson, when Wilson Drive, the contract came, I mean, the fiscal note was not the question that I needed to know. So I emailed Mark, and he provided me with the budget, what was budgeted, what we're granting, and all the different. So I don't, maybe if he I mean, obviously I don't want him to change it just for what I'm asking for, but if he's getting consistent feedback and questions from us on this, this is not the fiscal information I need to know, and maybe it'll start, giving him an idea of the kinds of things we're interested in.
The only other thing I wanted to mention really quickly is the last item, is what I've noticed is, and maybe it's a checkbox here, but and I don't know what that limit is, but I have noticed on some big initiatives, a department head will write the memo, and it'll have a fiscal impact, and they'll write it, and when I ask a question in committee, or in board, Mark won't have the answer because he has not reviewed the fiscal note.
Right.
Okay, so, and that happens that's happened quite a
So I
bit.
put in the policy that Mark needs to review.
Right, and I don't know, absolutely, it should be before it comes to us, because I'm uncomfortable with that, and I don't know, and again, I don't want to overburden Mark, he's one person, so my question is, just think about it, is there a trigger of when it has to go to him? So I'm thinking of the big
Oh, yeah,
stuff.
I mean, that's in our brand book. So these are some of the things that when I'm like thinking about process and like preparation for board, that's one of the things that kind of, just because the department has done with it doesn't mean it's done.
Right.
So that's a shift. That's a shift that I'm continuing to work with.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, one of the previous municipalities I worked with actually had a signature spot. We could do a checkbox, but they had a signature for the manager, finance director, and the village attorney, saying that they reviewed the documents, and that's once again just a service reminder. So we could look at that.
Yeah, and I don't mind which one, I just know, and if there's a cutoff, like if you guys administratively decide, just let us know, but it is important to me that I feel confident that it's a big thing, like there were some big things coming this year, and I was like, I'd have a question we're here to consider it, and I couldn't even ask my finance director about it because he hadn't reviewed it. So that's very unsettling to me. And especially if it's time sensitive, because then I don't want to be the one saying, we gotta hold this over, and now you gotta wait another 2 weeks, so
Okay, great.
that's all I got.
All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take your comments and make some changes, and then once I get those changes, definitely because the template would be changing quite a bit for the board, I'll send that in advance. But otherwise, I feel a lot of the other suggestions that you made are pretty self-explanatory. I can just go in and make those changes
Do you want
to bring them for consideration.
I was just gonna say that, if it's easier for you to bring everything to us for consideration except the template, you know what I'm saying, if you need more time for that?
We're gonna need more time for this.
I know you would.
Yeah.
So my question is, I'm fine with that, I don't know how the other trustees feel, but if you need us to have these checking points of adoption,
Yeah,
we still have that time.
I'll do chapters 1 and 2, and I'll hold on 3, because I know it's important that you'd like the attachment to be included if you're going to be considering it. So we'll do the introduction, chapters 1 and 2, and then I'll hold off on the memo and letterhead for the next group, which is now my last question for you before we go. So I have chapters 4 through 6 already drafted, which is about telephone and fax stakeholders, which those two are very to the point, more procedural if anything, but then the manager's memo as far as how information gets in there. I know there's been a request to move up social media and for social media to be tackled next, so that's what I wanted to ask you for you as a board. Do you want me to bring forward what I already have and take care of that before we get to social media, or do you want to move social media up and handle that next? I was trying to do some easier ones first to kind of get us in the flow before bringing social media. But if you want to tackle it right away and get it, I'm more than happy to try to address that.
Go big or go home.
Okay. Swing.
Okay, let's handle
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's my thought, but
That's fine with me.
When are we next meet, are we having another special meeting on it?
We will. It'll be once I have drafted it. So at this point, I've reached out to the league to get some best practices from them, because I'm going to be fully transparent with you. My biggest concern with social media, with me drafting, is bringing it forward and telling you as a board how you should use social media. And especially knowing there's a good large percentage of residents in Shorewood that are using social media to be engaged in village issues. I don't want to be the center of attention on the assistant village manager telling us how to use social media. So,
Oh, come
You don't
on.
want
okay, so
Well, but I think that, you know, like, I'm hearing that, and I think that it's the role of board members to ensure that when something is coming forward, that it, you know, like, as a staff member, you're trying to do something that can be crafted by this group. So I guess it would be my expectation of all of you that if that is a tone that is ever out there, that you are addressing it. Because if that is seriously we have a lot of other issues, but
Yeah.
that's gonna be,
I think it's
maybe
going to
we
be
do,
highly,
I don't know.
here's my feel and my direction, because I know we set the agenda together, so I believe it's going to be highly controversial. And I can tell you, because my opinion is completely 180 from some of the other trustees on this board. So, knowing that, it's going to be a very long and probably heated discussion. And so I really want to be careful that whoever is drafted, and I appreciate what you're doing, because I would advise that as well, that you bring to us multiple examples, and maybe it's a committee of the whole, maybe it's a special, I don't mind how you want to structure that, but that we can then decide what types of things we would like in a social media policy for.
give you a menu, almost like a menu of options. Like,
I do, because if you bring forward one perspective, like an example, and it doesn't include the other, I'm just saying that you're gonna end up doing twice as much work.
because the
and-
league may have you know, this is what we recommend, but you as a board may not want to move that
Right,
direction.
and then what do we do
Right,
if there is an example out there of various ways people, you know, the league might have a recommended one, they have a recommended one, I'm gonna just give you an example, for committee structure, you know, that addresses rules of the board. I read it, I love it,
Mhm.
right? But if you don't agree with it, you know, then we don't even follow it. So obviously other municipalities don't either. So there's a plethora out there, just because there's one template doesn't mean it's the exact one. So that's my advice is, I think it would make it smoother if you had a template that was recommended by an organization, if they have one, or maybe they have multiple examples, but also just do a little more research on other ways people have done it, so that we
I
can
think
craft
on
something
the, on
together.
the beekeeping policy, like we looked at what various other places would, you don't even have to come forward with a recommendation. You could come forward with, here's 5 that I found, let's look at all of them, what do you like, what don't you like, and that just initiates the discussion, and then you're not getting
So
up to making a
so
so
recommendation.
if we do it that way, just know we may need, I mean, and it's okay, but we may need a few special meetings. I mean, one is just to have a open discussion
I
about
think
it,
we need
and
to
then
have
you
an
need
open
another one to
discussion.
react to what is put to paper.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Well,
Okay.
that's how committees work, isn't
Yeah.
it? I mean,
That's the
you know, the only thing I'll say about it is that, we have a right to free speech on social media, out in the community, anywhere. And, I mean, I don't think anything that is trying to constrain our ability to express our opinions about issues, political issues that come before this board. I mean, it's not constitutional. So please don't bring something that tries to constrain anyone's constitutional rights to free speech, okay? Recognizing that we cannot deliberate, we recognize open meetings restrictions, but other than that, you know, if it's something that's clearly, if it's something that's clearly not fitting with the Constitution, I'm not interested in.
Okay?
So in summary, we're just gonna be looking at examples first,
Yeah, I'll just bring some examples.
right? Is that where we're, okay.
We'll start there. I already got those.
And
so that's gonna be
I
great.
want to be clear that it's my expectation of trustees that as we move through this process, that everyone understands that the draft committee staff is doing the best that they can with the feedback that we're obtaining. So I take that just very seriously. If we can start with improvement in that area, that would be really appreciated.
And I think we should set some expectations, I certainly will, just that we're trying to achieve a consensus.
Yeah, we're
and
trying to get better.
And if we can't, you know, I mean, this isn't something that we're changing, it's something new to address, because it's unfound, you know, it's just a new.
Well, I don't understand when you say get better, like, I don't understand I don't even see that there's really a problem, frankly. I don't know what the problem is. I mean, you're talking about Village of Shorewood Facebook?
Let me clarify, from my perspective, it is a controversy among our board members, and in the attempt to, and the community, and in an attempt to move us forward and not have as much controversy and be more, bring the community back together, I think it's great to have that discussion, and if we can come to consensus, then that would even be better. But if we can't, we can't, but I think we need to do it respectfully, and I do think the discussion would be helpful to have, because people expect that we're gonna have it. And if we don't have it, it may turn into nothing, but if we don't have that discussion, then even the community's expectation is that we would have the discussion.
I mean, even the contention that somehow social media, that the community, that there are divisions in the community that are due to social media. I mean, there's a lot of uncivil behavior, you know,
And we're
right in
working on
this room, you know, so that has, I mean, I'm frankly more concerned about things that happen face-to-face than things that happen on social media.
Well, then maybe you're suggesting that we don't need to move it up, and maybe, because I know we're working on those too, like, we're talking about, you know, other things that we
No,
can do.
I just think there's a certain narrative about social media that's been perpetuated, and I don't really buy that whole narrative. I mean, I'm willing to discuss it, I have no problems talking about it, and I think it's a good discussion to have, but I don't buy the framing that any one social media site is somehow responsible for political differences in Shorewood.
This policy also extends to employees, and I think we want to make it clear.
So we already have a social
Oh, you
media
do have a
policy
social-
for our employees,
Okay.
which I will just be taking and putting in here.
Okay.
It specifically talks about, you know, if they are acting as a representative of
Right.
the village in that capacity, and also reflects if, you know, on their personal Facebook too, we have some lines, which I'll
Okay.
cover when we talk about it. Yeah, the part we're gonna have to include new language is
Yeah, there's-
about, not only as village board members, but our, you know, citizen committee members, those individuals as well too, because they are, you know, representatives of the village, so.
And we may not include any language, but we need that discussion.
But at least to start the discussion, absolutely.
Just covered. Anyone else? Any more?
I mean, what's the decision to bring it up? I mean, I don't know. If it's gonna be contentious, then it might not be that